Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to talk today about productivity and how you can be more efficient and more effective with the time that you've got. You always hear that adage, everybody has 24 hours in a day, and sometimes that day looks very different for everybody. So without any judgment, and this sort of feeds back to a previous episode that I did on one-page planning, it's so important to make sure that you have a plan to start things off with before you start doing tasks or trying to get through your to-do list. So I'm going to go through 6 things that I do to make sure that I'm really effective in how to juggle my time, manage my commitments with family, with friends, and obviously with clients in my business. And then personal time that is so important to me. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brenda Rigney. I'm a business coach. I've come from the corporate world. I spent 27 years building organizations like The Gap, Banana Republic, Old Navy, Earl's Restaurants, Aritzia, Nurse Next Door, and more. So my background has always been about working with people, working with customers and employees and leaders inside the organization to help them grow, whether it's been in departments like HR, marketing, IT, customer service, and operations. That's been my forte. And I'm glad now that I get an opportunity to work with midlife women entrepreneurs who are thinking about leaving their corporate job or who already have, maybe over the last 1 or 2 years, and are really excited about launching and growing their dream business. I'm here to share my wisdom, my experience of skinning my knees, my entrepreneurial journey, and hopefully you'll take away some gems and nuggets that you can put into your business and into your plan. Okay, so let's talk about our topic today, which is all about being really productive in our business. And one of the things that I found, especially as a midlife woman entrepreneur, navigating midlife and all the things that sort of come your way, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, health challenges, family commitments, kids still at home or on their way out as an emerging adult, or even spending time caring for aging parents. These have all been things that myself and even my clients have been dealing with, and also launching their businesses and trying to grow them in this crazy, ever-changing, dynamic world that we live in. So here are these 6 steps that I use. And honestly, I've been using them for as long as I can remember, since I started learning about leading people, leading organizations and teams, and really driving sales and marketing and customer experiences in the organizations I used to work for in my corporate experience, and then now in my business. So the first one is, I think, hands down the most critical one, because whether or not you're using something on your phone, a spreadsheet that you created in the 90s, having clarity over your vision, values, and goals is absolutely essential. And I'm not specifically talking about your vision and values and goals for your business, but for your life. So oftentimes I hear from people, Brenda, I want to have more balance between my work and life, or I struggled a lot with balance and setting boundaries in my corporate job. How do I make sure I set those in my business? Well, here's the thing. There's no separation between life and work, life and relationships, life and health. It's all one life. There's one Brenda, one you, one me. I find that when I try and compartmentalize my life, my business, my relationships, my wealth, my community impact, it gets way too confusing. And I'm trying to show up differently to different people or in different situations or circumstances versus let's just be true to who I am and what I'm all about and what drives me. So I start always with my vision, values, and goals. And what I mean by vision is that over the next 3, 5, 10 years, I know exactly where I'm going. I know what relationships are important to me, where I want my business, my career to be positioned. Do I know exactly what I'm going to be doing 10 years from now on a Tuesday at 2:00? No, I don't necessarily have that foreshadowing, but I am clear on where I want to be spending my time and who I want to be spending my time with. And that's absolutely essential when we're thinking about being productive in our businesses and being effective with the relationships that we have. Is that if we don't declare that now, what ends up happening, I find from personal experience, is that those things sort of run away with you. And all of a sudden you're like, you're sitting at some event, you're sitting in some meeting, you're working with a client, you're like, what am I doing here? Why is this important to me? You might even start doubting your offers, doubting your pricing, doubting like your business, and then feeling like you need to pivot. I work with a lot of midlife women entrepreneurs and business owners that feel like they need to drop something and start again. And my whole thing, especially at midlife, is we don't need to start again on anything. We're never starting from scratch at this point. We're not learning something at a university or college. It's not our first time job. We have so many great experiences and we need to be able to tap into that. So first and foremost, we need to have a vision for our life. And yes, a vision for your business is important. Coming from corporate, and I think in a different type of business era, We would have 10-year plans, 20-year plans. And albeit, that may have been inspiring at the time, it didn't really help us in the next like 1 to 2 years, especially now, I think with technology changing. And if you're a solopreneur in your business or you're thinking about growing where you need to bring in teams, I think building things together and iterative planning is more essential than having some far reaching vision that never really comes to fruition because things change so rapidly. So having a vision for your life and then an extension of that to your business, getting clear on your values. Now, my work around values is to identify at least 4 values that can help me make decisions, help me determine the risk level that I'm investing in. If I would decide that I need to sign on for 5 tech platforms this year, my values should really guide my thinking. And so I keep it to 4. I've read different perspectives on setting values. For example, Brene Brown talks about having 2 values in your decision making. And I remember working for one organization that used to have 12 values, and we would have all leaders and employees in the organization know those values. It was part of our onboarding program. And while I thought that was cool to have that many values and to claim those, I think it added some complexity to decision making. It was almost like there was too many filters to making decisions. And in some cases, we do need to make quick decisions and we need to make thoughtful decisions. But if there's too many parameters to make those decisions, it can actually mire us in decision fatigue and analysis paralysis. I limit myself to 4. Mine are specifically integrity, love, adventure, and curiosity. These overlap into my life and they overlap into my business, my relationships. I can see them overlapping into my health. I don't have to have a decision-making filter for different areas of my life. For people that I show up for on a regular basis, my partner, my kids, my clients, they know me to be true to those because I'm a living example of those. The choices that I make, the decisions, what shows up in my calendar is all reflective of my vision and values. And then the last component that really helps get that clarity for us are our goals. So we have goals for all domains of our life. That includes our business or our career, our relationships, our wealth, our health, our community impact, our spirituality, all the domains of our life that we feel are important or that we actually want to cultivate more. Maybe we've lapsed on our sort of spiritual practice or our commitment to community involvement and impact. And this is the time that we want to bring those goals forward more and do more work in that area. So your vision, your values, and goals are all interconnected. Once you have those in place, now you have the clarity on what needs to happen, right? We're not shooting from the hip. We're not getting enamored by some sparkly idea that we see on social media. And even if we are, we can put it through that filter of our vision, values, and goals to help us decide, should I go after that sparkly thing? Should I take that course? Should I sign up for this new platform? When does it actually impact the areas that we want to see evolve in our life and our business? Okay, the second thing that I do is now it's kind of like all the things that actually need to get done. So I'm clear on my vision, values, and goals and kind of like broken that down over the next year or the next 6 months where I want to take my business. But now I've got all these things that are like swirling around in my head. I've got pieces of paper, notepads, post-it notes, journals, all these things, right? Notes on my phone. And I need to pull that all together to really assess, okay, what is going to happen, not just for the year, and not just for like a business quarter or for a month, but actually down to the day. And I think that's where we end up losing a lot of time and traction. Is like we've got this big lofty goal for the year, but we haven't broken it down into a daily to-do list. And so this is absolutely essential. So what I love to do is just do a brain dump. It could even be in a forum like this where I video record myself or audio record myself, and I just list off everything that's sort of top of mind for me, that's coming up, that's percolating up. Like, oh, I've got to finish my expense report. I've got to do some planning. I've got to book a trip. So it's personal, it's work related, it's career related. All of it just gets dumped into this massive list. And then what I love to do is I love to assess how long would it take to do each of these task items. I want to just be really clear about it, really kind of for my work. And if I was obviously working with a team of people, we would do the same thing for each individual. But how long would it take me to record a podcast? How long would it take me to edit that podcast and then do the uploading of that podcast and the content and the social media and posting the social media? Like I want to break that task down into multiple components so I really understand how much time is set aside. Because I used to just be like, oh, I'll just take Friday morning and do a bunch of stuff in my business. And I didn't realize how much time some things took. And as a solopreneur, sometimes things will take 15 minutes, but if I'm new to something, it might take me like like 15 days, depending on what it is. So that's where it's really important for me to divide out my time based off of how long a task could be. Plus, it also challenges me a little bit to say, okay, you know what? When I record a podcast and edit it and then upload it, it used to take me a couple days or even outsource it to somebody that would take weeks and weeks. And now I've gotten it down to like 20, 30 minutes because I have a process in place and I've timed myself. So I know how long my tasks and my routines take. And so that helps me plan out the things that I need to get done. So from there, if I know how long something's going to take to get done, now I can actually look at the list, this brain dump of things, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 2 days, 15 days. This is where I can determine, do I want to outsource it? Like if I know that something is going to take me 2 days or, longer, I might be like, you know what, 2 days just seems like a long time for me right now. Or with this component, do I need to learn it? Do I need to like be sitting there on YouTube watching all these videos to understand how to do it? Or is there somebody in my network that is like an expert at this that I can delegate that to, that I can outsource that to? So that's where it's really important for me to have people on my team. And I don't have per se a team of employees, but I do have a team of contractors, people that I can call and ask and determine, could you get this done? And chances are when I look at their capacity or their effectiveness in getting it done, my 15 days to get it done could be equivalent to like their 2 days to get it done. So by far, it's going to be more cost effective, more time effective. And whatever I'm creating, especially if it's there to, sell an offer to potential clients, I could be also bringing in revenue faster to pay for that service, as well as bringing revenue in to invest in my business and pay myself. So I will go through, brain dump all those ideas, assign times for it. If it seems unreasonable for me, that might be something that I delegate or potentially even automate. Like maybe it's a payment processing system. Is this an opportunity for me to, instead of taking days and days and days to do it, or for someone else to take days and days to do it, is there a platform, is there a technology tool that can automate it for us, that can create more efficiency? And yes, there's a cost to it, but there's also a cost with people's time. And sometimes we don't think about that. We just see the price tag for a piece of technology and we think, oh, I can't afford that right now. I can't afford to make that investment in my business. But you are making that investment in your business someplace else. Your time, someone else's time, which costs money. And if there's a way that you can speed up that time and pay for itself, i.e., it generates more revenue for you or more profitability for you, then it was a good investment. So think about it from that perspective. The other thing that you could also be doing is eliminating that task altogether. I mentioned earlier about the bright, shiny object. Maybe that bright, shiny object doesn't align with your vision, values, and goals. So instead of it somehow appearing on your to-do list, maybe it doesn't even hit your to-do list altogether. Or because you're analyzing your to-do list, not just writing things down or plunking down in front of your desk and starting to do work, but you're actually looking thoughtfully at like each task that you're putting down, the time commitment, does it align to your vision, values, and goals? And that if it doesn't, you just eliminate it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gone forever. Maybe you just put it on what I like to call my do not do list. So I always like to say my do not do list is bigger than my to-do list. So right now, where is your do not do list on your desk? Look around. If you don't have one, that will be one of the things as a takeaway from our session today, is to actually create a do not do list and have it posted somewhere so that you can see it. Mine is actually, can't see it here, but it's like, in front of my desk in my office, so that when I'm sitting there, it's like, oh yeah. And there's some on there that I'll just like never do. So that it just reminds myself, because my brain may also say, hey, this is a really great idea, and it keeps coming up. It's like, no, never do it. It's not a good idea. I don't necessarily want to live in regret. Regret is a great learning tool, because it's like, okay, well, I obviously signed up for it for some reason, but if it's not aligned to my vision, values, and goals, was it the best use of my time? So not going to regret it. There's a learning in there, a learning to get more disciplined, a learning to say yes or no, which leads me into my third action that really helps drives productivity for me, is learning how to set boundaries. I think setting boundaries, hands down, has been like the best skill or gift that I've taught myself and committed to learning more about as an entrepreneur. I would say in my corporate days, even all the way up to a COO, I did not have effective boundaries with family members, with friends, with bosses, with employees, with customers. I would say yes to a lot of things because I grew up in this customer first environment where it's like the customer is always right. And I basically labeled everybody as a customer, even my kids at some point or another. That in itself is definitely a detriment that I see a lot of entrepreneurs going through. And not to say that you don't want to care about your customers, but really be careful about how much you're extending yourself. And are you charging for that? Is that a gift, a one-time offer, or is it something that's just a repeatable behavior that is actually helping you burn out faster? So setting boundaries is like the biggest learning. And part of the work around setting boundaries is even some of the things that I've already talked already about, having that clarity around your vision, values, and goals, doing that brain dump around your to-do list and getting those things into your calendar. But the third element that's so critical around the boundaries is actually having some of those conversations that maybe you've been putting off. Because the reality is, with all the things that need to get done in your life and in your business, some people are not necessarily helping you get those done effectively and efficiently. And you may need to have some boundary setting conversations around it. The fact that maybe there's someone that's always constantly interrupting you while you're trying to do some really heavy thought work. That's where it's like you may need to set some context with that individual and let them know that, hey, while I'm doing this work over the next 2 hours and my office door is closed, I really need to have that. No texting, etc. And also maybe on your part, like I think about it as parents, we may even have to set some boundaries with our kids, depending on what age they are. It does mean sometimes in order for that person to respect our boundaries, we may need to do some added work. Before you start taking on your to-do list, do you have good boundaries set up with yourself and with people in your life and in your business before you start taking on that to-do list? Okay, my fourth thing is time blocking. I am a huge believer in time blocking your calendar. And I know some people are anti-time blocking because they feel it's way too structured and they're more creative. But I am a creative person, and I find that if I don't time block my activities, similar to doing that brain dump and timing out my routines, is that I may give myself way too much time or not enough time to do something and then feeling shortchanged or rushed. And that stop, start is actually ineffective use of time versus if I properly blocked it off, knowing that the task was going to take 2 hours. Maybe I do an hour on one day, an hour on another day, just so I'm not like inundating myself. Or I make sure I choose the hour to do it in the morning versus the afternoon when I tend to be a little bit more sleepy and sluggish. So time blocking activities are essential. And part of the time blocking activity routine that I get into is I always time block activities that help me do the work that I need to do. So for example, I don't do activities first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning to me is like usually when I wake up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not really doing any heavy lifting around that time. I don't actually start working on my business until about 10 o'clock in the morning because I know I've got to do things like other time block activities like working out, having a really good breakfast, servicing, supporting my dog's like well-being, all the things that are involved in those activities. And so I don't actually want to get into heavy duty client work until 10 o'clock when I feel like, okay, all that other responsibility work for myself and for people that I care about has been taken care of. And then I can just have this clear head, clear focus on what I need to be doing in my business and supporting my clients. I always schedule lunch. This is something that I've like carried over from my corporate days is not having lunch. So now I time block lunch for myself. And a full hour, whether I'm working a 3-hour day or a 5-hour day, I always schedule an hour for lunch. It's a great time for me to also overlap with my partner, Scott, because he often works from home. And so then we can connect over lunch and say hi. And it's just a good time to decompress and also give me some energy, give me that boost that I need for the afternoon activity. So time blocking is really important. This is also a helpful hint that a client gave me like years ago, and now I share with everybody that I come in contact with around time blocking, is at the beginning of the year, time block all of your self-care appointments. So getting your haircut, going to the dental hygienist 2 times a year, your massage therapy appointments, whatever those things are that you need to do, vet appointments, you know your dogs need to get shots or your cat needs to get shots at some point or another in the year, put it into your calendar and have those time blocked in. And then work your business around those activities versus I've got a full client roster this week. I've got all these calls with other collaborators in business, and I have no time to do X, Y, and Z. And these are essential activities that I need to do in order to make sure that I'm caring for my health. So oftentimes I see us as entrepreneurs, and especially as midlife women entrepreneurs, putting our health and our care plan to the side versus actually schedule all those activities first and then have your business fit into those activities and like where there's white space in your calendar. So time blocking is really important. The fifth technique that I have to help me be more efficient in my business is the Pomodoro method. Now, I didn't create this. This has been something that's been around for a long time. And when I worked in video gaming, this is where I learned about it because we would do sprints. We would be working on a 24-month game cycle. So that's a long time to be focused on like one initiative, one product that we had to get back to our customers like Sony or Electronic Arts. We would do projects in sprints and we practice methodologies like Scrum, Waterfall. So these are all project management methodologies. But when we had to do daily tasks, the Pomodoro method was amazing. So basically how it works is if you're struggling, maybe because you get distracted, you've got all this technology going off, notifications humming around, I would say turn all those things off and then set your timer to say 10 minutes initially. Or 15 minutes, depending if you feel like you can stretch it out till then. And so you set your timer on your watch or on your laptop for 10, 15 minutes. And that is enough time to get through a bulk of work. So you go to your to-do list that we've already like identified for the day and we circle one item and we work on it for 15 minutes. Now, it doesn't have to be completed in 15 minutes, but you're just going to work on it, concerted effort, work on it for 15 minutes. The alarm goes off. Take a break for equal amount of time. So set the alarm again and take a break for 15 minutes, not 30, not 25, not 5, a full 15-minute break. Give your body and your brain a chance to kind of decompress, think about the work that you did, go get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do, then come back. If you feel like you feel good about that 15-minute block of working, 15-minute block of taking a break, now set the timer again, say for 25 minutes, increase it by 10 minutes. Do the same exercise, work for 25 minutes, and then take a break for 25 minutes. See how that feels. Now maybe up the game again, go to 35 minutes, go to 45 minutes, take it to an hour and see how you do. Can you go for long stretches of like 5, 10 hours? No, I think the reality is like your brain eventually gets to a point of capacity. And again, I know as a midlife woman, it's like, I need more breaks than I do work time. I love the Pomodoro method because it allows me that discipline, but it also allows me that grace period to take the break and rest and decompress from whatever activity that I've been working on. The last technique that I want to share with you today is what I call my bookend method. I think it's so important as we're doing activities throughout the week to be productive and efficient and effective is to close off the week with, thank you, you did it, way to go. And the way that I do that is I've gone through lots of different types of journaling exercises, gratitude exercises, and this is a simple method that I use, and it takes about 15 minutes. And again, I have this activity time blocked on my schedule. Every Friday, 2 o'clock, I do this activity. I ask myself 3 questions, and I journal the responses. The first question I love to ask myself, and I'll journal the responses, is what did I love about this week? Now, right off the bat, you might be thinking, Brenda, that's a really easy question. Not always. It depends on the week, right? Depends on what I said yes to, depends on how I set my boundaries for the week, depending on how big my to-do list and like what type of impact or effort I was having on those different activities. So not always, but I try and look for one thing that I loved about that week, right? And it's not a quantity standpoint. I'm not going to put a metric beside it, like, oh, it was a 10x lovable week this week. It's just more one thing that I loved about the week. Second question I ask myself is, what did I learn this week? Because learning to me is a value, but I think it's also something that for all of us, knowing that we are in that growth mindset, that we are continually learning, we're open to new perspectives, new ideas, whether that's something that I read in a newspaper article or something that a client shared with me and I wrote it down. Like even this morning, a client shared a piece of technology that they're using that's been really effective in their business. And I'm like, cool, I'll write that down. And I might dig into it a little bit more. And by Friday, I might reflect on it and say, yeah, that was what I learned this week is this new platform. And I could see it being incorporated into my business somehow. And then the third question that I always love to ask myself is what made me strong this week? And it could be like strong as a muscle strong and physically strong or mentally strong, but just overall, what made me strong this week? Was it something that I said? I like the way I positioned my brand messaging when I was talking to a client. Is there a to-do list item that I got checked off on my list this week that made me feel really strong that I got it completed and we're seeing some results in it in my business? So whatever those things are, love, learn, strong, I always ask myself those three questions. Take note of what I observe. And I also love to go back week over week and just see how it's evolving. Is there a certain trend that's coming up? Like, oh, it turns out that I really love doing X, Y, and Z. So let's actually, instead of it just happening organically in my schedule, why don't we actually time block it in my schedule? Because I know that I love it and I know that it creates all these, good vibes or positive results in my business or in my life with my relationships. So why don't I schedule more of that? I always call it bookending my week, Friday, 2 o'clock, 15 minutes in my calendar. Maybe the first time you do it takes a little bit longer, but as you get into the routine and the practice of it and reflecting, it just comes naturally to you. So sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes. So let's go top to bottom. We'll do a quick review around ways that you can be more effective and more productive in your business. First things first, vision, values, goals. Do you have those identified, written down somewhere that you can go back to and refer to so that when you need to make a decision to do something, to say yes to something in your calendar, that it actually aligns with your vision, values, and goals. Number two, do that brain dump daily. So even though we've got this vision of what we're going to do for the year in our business, we need to have daily activities that we're doing that are contributing to that. So we need to do the brain dump of all the things that are happening in our life, in our relationships, in our business. And then we need to assess time factors. Do we do it? Do we eliminate it? Do we automate it? We need to make sure that we're looking at those things. And then number three, setting healthy boundaries, clear boundaries with people, things in our life. That could be technology, could be my alarm clock. There's lots of things that we should be learning how to set boundaries with, but boundaries is a key skill that we need to have as entrepreneurs. And having those boundary conversations with some individuals that might be sucking that time from us that we just don't want to give up because it's not aligned to our vision, values, and goals to do that. Number four, we talked about time blocking activities. So now that we know what we're working on and what's essential and what's important to us, we just put it in our calendar. We actually block it off. I use colors. Family stuff is always yellow. Client stuff is always green. It just makes it easy too when I'm looking at things for the day going, oh, okay, 3 client things, 1 family thing. Great. Got it. And then I know exactly what I've committed to. Pomodoro method was number 5. So that's if we're not used to being a little bit more disciplined, we're finding that we're a little bit more distracted or it takes us a little bit longer to get through those routines that we've timed out. Set your timer. If I put down in my brain dump that routine number 2 of updating my expense sheets with my receipts from the last month is taking me 25 minutes, I'll put down 25 minutes and then I'll set my timer for 25 minutes. If it ends up taking me 30 minutes, well, I'll assess that. Like, where did I lose those 5 minutes? Again, 5 minutes might not be a big deal in the big scheme of things, but over the course of the day, the week, the month, the year, those 5 minutes turn into like a lot of time. So we need to know where we can speed up our time. And that could be, again, a helpful technology tool. Maybe we outsource it. Maybe we're spending too much time getting distracted, but at least we know where that time is being sucked away. And then my last one is close out your week every week with a bookend reflection. What did you love about the week? What did you learn this week? And what made you strong? I'm glad that you're here today. I'm glad that you're tuning in on YouTube and watching these videos or listening on podcast. Please let me know what you think of them. Feel free to give me a rating, a thumbs up, 5-star rating, leave a comment, leave a review, and also check out the show notes because there will always be a link. Most likely I'm going to put in that link to that previous YouTube or podcast that I did on one-page planning, because I think it all starts with having your vision, values, and goals clearly articulated. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you soon.